experimentation. I mean, you have to look at stuff like that. I forgot what the astronomers are real big on it too. It's I forgot what it's called and shit. But yeah, the guy that's on Ancient Aliens, his his name I keep forgetting it, but he's one guy that I was referring to earlier, and
We're talking about crazy hair, or
oh no,
could it be aliens? Which one?
Ancient Aliens. You're talking about. I'm talking about David Childress. Okay.
The Children's, yes.
Now David Childress is a freaking rocket scientist. Okay. Now, how many times have you heard people tell you it doesn't take a rocket scientist? Well, you know what? It's a rocket scientist telling you he believes in freaking aliens. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
And then I was saying, then the quantum physics instructor, he says that neuroscience is a lot more difficult than rocket science, which I know enough about neither. I'm just learning quantum, so I think it's funny you use that example. And literally, the instructor he just said something about that. Anyway, go ahead.
I got a rocket scientist story for you if you want to hear it. It's kind of off topic, but it's hilarious, and it puts rocket scientists in a whole different perspective for me.
That's fine.
I like to laugh. Tell the story, please.
So when I got hired at NASA, and there was actually like a month and a half or 2 months between getting hired and getting there. You know, that government jobs. And when you first start, you have this yellow tag you have to wear with your badge, meaning you haven't fully been cleared yet. You don't have your full security clearance. So my job was to work on the serial networking stuff, the RS-422, that sort of things. That there was a lot of serial networking because the shuttles were built in the 70s. But I had to run around with the NCS group at first, which was Networking Computer Systems. This is regular desktop guys for the most part, but they were in our shop. Now, regular desktops at the time were alpha workstations and what have you. That's what we were calling regular desktops. But never mind that. The very first call I went on, we got a printer call. And I jumped in with the NCS group because, you know, there wasn't anyone from my group around at the moment. Ran off to this printer call, and we go to the trajectory. So trajectory, obviously, these are rocket scientists. They are the ones who determine how much fuel to spend over how much time, out of which nozzle, etc., to keep the station positioned, and they also work on shuttle traj for launches. So we're in traj. We go to traj, and the printer won't print. And I'm nervous. I'm like, man, I don't know if I'm up to this. I know I'm a good tech. I'm a real good tech, but I don't know if I'm a NASA level tech. And yeah, this is the first call I'm on, so I run over there. And the printer won't print, and we start, okay, well, let's do some diags, make sure everything's plugged in good, make sure there's, everything's in order. There's no paper. The rocket scientist call the mechs on the third floor. The printer won't work, and there's no paper.
What? Because that's the problem with extremely intelligent people. It has to be complicated. It's never a simple solution because they're looking for the extreme. That is so funny. Oh my God.
There's reams of paper right next to this printer.
Imagine being the one. What happens when you tell them? What happened when you told them? What were their faces priceless?
They really don't care. They just kind of shrug it off. Oh, okay, yeah, that would explain why it wouldn't print. Okay.
Wow, yeah, right. I'd have just been looking like, are you serious right now?
That's pretty good.
That's why I'm not a tech in NASA. That's so funny.
I had a lot of stuff like that go on there. But you tend to get at a government jobs of the era. And this was Bush the W era. It's hard to get fired from a government job. At least it was during that era. And what tends to happen is if you hire someone to do a job and they're not really up to a task, you hire another person to do the job. And you keep the first guy and you get the second. And eventually you just get a whole bunch of people, one guy carrying the whole group. and then you get a whole bunch of people riding his coattails, and that's the way a lot of things work.
Sounds like a group project in college. Yeah, no.
That's
Yeah, I
exactly
mean,
what it is. I've actually heard that with just the documentaries on the space team, the ones that send out these satellites. Exactly what he just explained is what it is. You have an entire team following two, maybe three people that's actually doing the work.
and I survived. I think it was 9 rounds of layoffs when the Obama era layoffs came around, and they finally got rid of me. And I have strong reason to believe it because of demographic check marks. I'm straight, I'm white, I'm male, and even though I carried my team on occasion, there was one guy on my team that was actually better than me. He was ex-Navy and he worked on all this equipment in the Navy, and he came over. Nobody else was going to touch that guy, but I was pretty damn good.
What was the reason? If you don't mind me asking, what was the reason? Because you said you believe that it was this reason, but what was the reason that they gave you?
They did it. There was layoffs. I survived about 9 rounds before they got to me. The reason was it was the Red State Punishment Program. During the Obama was pretty open about supporting those who supported him. Oshkosh, you remember the Oshkosh vehicle manufacturing that was, I don't know, north of Fort Worth, maybe a little closer to Lubbock. They made military vehicles, MRAPs and what have you. Obama moved it out of Texas just because it was in Texas and he didn't want it here. It would have been political suicide to shut down the Johnson Space Center, but he sure could turn it into a skeleton crew and not get too much attention.
Yeah.
There were a lot of federal programs that got moved out of Texas and other red states during the Obama admin. If you recall, they took over. Remember, that's when the government bought all the GM stock, and Saturn. I don't remember where Saturn was.
I believe, didn't they ship all the Lincolns over to China and traded them for them so they could? It was a real bad deal happening with the economy at the time.
I don't know about Lincoln, but
GM was one of the sold their stock in American Airlines when I watched Power. That's crazy. And let me do it again. You guys keep going because now I'm going crazy in my brain. That's wild.
Well, if you remember, Saturn wasn't made in Detroit. The Saturns were mostly built in another state. I don't even remember which one. But it wasn't a forced union state. It was one of those where union was optional. And that's why Saturn got shut down. And some dude, I don't even remember his name, was going to buy Saturn. And they had it set up to where they reneged on most of their offers. They only offered him one model. They were supposed to give him all their cars for him to keep manufacturing. They moved it down to one model. And he actually had a tripwire set up legally. As soon as they tried to screw him, he got paperwork in first. But they were going to sue him for not buying Saturn right after they took all the models away from the deal. Mm-hmm. And Hummers were made in Louisiana. And Louisiana is a union state, but it's a red union state. So they shut down Hummer manufacturing. It was just part of the Red State Punishment Program.
Now, see, that's the thing. I mean, I try to stay away from the political parties and stuff, but like you've got to really bring into question what a union is doing in a freaking Republican state. I mean, right there by itself is just kind of crazy. It's kind of like Walmart. You know what I mean? Why do they have Walmart in these Republican states when you know that the people who are in those unions are conservatives? You know what I mean?
Louisiana is like a traffic light state. It keeps flashing back and forth between red and blue, and I'm talking about at every level. Louisiana just swings at every level back and forth. I don't even know what kind of governor they have now. But every time a seat turns red, it turns blue the next time around. It's just, they cycle.
Well, that's what Georgia's going through right now. I mean, it's almost exactly the same situation. And I know, what is it, South Carolina, I believe it is. It was the one that was having issues with the election, where they had to postpone the voting system because they couldn't get all their votes in. And but they're having the same issue where they're flip-flopping, and it's hard to determine. Now, I don't really like getting in politics either, but like this last election as well, that's another thing that really sticks out to me. Like the way that, and I don't agree with this either, but I know that this is the way it usually works. It's usually after freaking they've determined how things are going in Ohio, isn't it? It's Ohio. That's usually the determined state to show how the rest of the country is pretty much going to vote. I believe that's what they do. They go off of, no, it's Iowa? Or Ohio?
Yeah, Iowa. Yeah.
Iowa, yeah. Well, that's usually the way it usually goes. Like, once those votes have been tallied in, that's when the rest of these states just basically fall, you know what I mean? One right after the other. But I've never seen any election where Georgia and Las Vegas determine the freaking, in Arizona, those three states determine the elections for that period, and that just blew me out of the water.
Well, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself for a second. I'm an objective realist. I am into politics a little bit, but I tend not to open my mouth in a public forum unless I know something for certain. And that's part of why I talked about the Obama Red State Punishment Program. I mean, Obama said so himself. The media covered for him, but there were interviews where he talked about who was going to get rewarded and who wasn't. And he outright said to the cameras, if you don't like it, try winning some elections. Well, the problem is, right now, the elections are rigged.
Yeah.
I'm in Harris County, Texas. Well, I don't live in Harris County at the moment, but I did live in Harris County, Texas. I was at a poll watcher at one of the central polling facilities. I'm telling you straight up that was rigged. The election machinery is broken in many parts of the nation. I lived in Phoenix for a year and a half after high school. Arizona was notoriously conservative during the 90s when I moved there.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, at the time, I think it was the only constitutional carry state. Montana might have been also, but yeah, Arizona was constitutional carry. I mean, if you were 18, you'd walk around with a pistol on your hip.
Yeah.
And that was in 1996, 1997, before everyone else jumped on board. There's no way Arizona went blue for the governor or the president. Georgia, I mean, how is it 5 states stopped counting all at the same time, shut down for the same amount of time, and came back with almost exactly identical results, when never once in the history of this country has a state ever quit counting until they were done? Oh, everybody go home and take a nap. We're going to count later. When does that happen?
Yeah, it's when they do the mail-in ballots. That's another thing that they were discussing, is like, that's the leniency on those mail-in ballots was just so outrageous. I mean, I could understand, like, elderly not being able to get out of the house, and they want to get a ballot sent to them in the mail. I watch over my mom and dad and take care of them, and I understand when it comes to the elderly, but if you're too lazy to get your ass up and walk down, at least drive down to a freaking voting ballot, which for me, I can walk there, then that's on you. There should be no excuse for you to have to sit and wait to freaking get a ballot and then mail it back.